Hello and welcome back to Life's Biggest Questions. I'm Ron Mackenzie Lafergie. It's time for another video in our SCP series, but this time it's a 3-for-1 deal. SCP-1913 is actually 3 separate entities, all with their own abilities, and all under containment by SCP. But what if these entities were not merely a part of the SCP mythos, but actually existed in real life? Let's explore. If you'd like to hear more wacky hypotheticals, check out our Biggest What Ifs playlist on the channel. But for now, get ready, it's time to ask the question. What if SCP-1913 was real? As always, let's start by getting everyone up to speed as to what these entities can do. As I said, SCP-1913 is actually 3 entities, conveniently referred to as SCP-1913 1, 2, and 3. All 3 have the ability to regenerate even from complete obliteration, although they do have an aversion to sulfur, but aside from that, they are all quite distinct. The first version of the entity, which goes by the name Agatha, resembles a white cat statue. However, as you can see, it's not your grandma's cat statue. It has inky black eyes, as well as the ability to release said ink on its victims. This ink can spread throughout a person's body, dissolving any parts it covers until nothing is left. What's even freakier about this thing is that detached body parts will continue to move of their own accord. That means if your arm was dissolved off, it would crawl along the floor trying to reunite itself with its body, and that sounds completely nightmarish. Thankfully, this only works with living tissue and requires direct contact with Agatha. Not only that, but it can be washed off with water. So it can do a lot of damage, but is pretty easy to remedy. Version 2, aka Telly, is a dark, female-looking skeleton, covered in hair and ash, with a head like a dog's. Telly is extremely fast, able to reach speeds up to 65 kilometers an hour. She is quite obedient when it comes to her fellow inmates, following the orders of 1913 1 and 3, and seems to have been taught to attack anyone wearing a lab coat or armor. The only way to avoid becoming the subject of her ire is to present her with food. And if you do, you'll find that she's surprisingly chill. However, if provoked, Telly will tear into her victim with slashing claws. Interestingly, or rather gruesomely, the victim will stay alive regardless of how much blood they've lost, until they take damage from another source, such as Agatha's ink. However, they would not feel good. Not good at all. The third version, SCP-1913-3, looks like a black lab, but instead of a nose, mouth, and eyes, it just has holes in its face through which white light shines. Its alternate name is Freddy, which is really weird because my childhood dog was named Freddy, except my Freddy was a miniature schnauzer and way cuter. Look at him. What a good boy. This Freddy, however, is very much not a good boy. When it catches its victim, it emits hot, gray flames from its face holes, burning his victim's skin until they are entirely consumed. If interrupted before the victim dies, they will still receive massive burns and may lose one or all of their senses. That all sounds pretty darn scary, but that's not the half of it. Part of what's so terrifying about these 3 is that they work as a team to kill their victims. Given their wide array of powers, they make a pretty terrifying threat to whomever they turn their sights on. Their general MO is to have Telly, the skeleton, attack and take down the victim, at which point the other 2 will come in and finish the job using their ink or fire abilities. But what would happen if these baddies actually existed? Well, as it stands, not too much, since they're currently all under lock and key, and under careful supervision by the SCP Foundation. However, if they were to escape, they could potentially cause a lot of problems. Let's start with SCP-1913-1, aka Agatha. If this ink cat was real, it could result in some wicked hysteria. Agatha's ability to dissolve people with her ink would be pretty terrifying once word got around. This would be made even more frightening if people didn't know where this was coming from. It could take a while before someone suspected the little porcelain cat. Things like rogue scientists and flesh-eating bacteria would seem much more likely. Although, maybe if people kept finding wriggling arms flopping around like a dead fish, they'd know something was amiss. On the bright side, the ink can only affect someone if they make direct contact with Agatha, and the ink only works on living tissue, so we probably wouldn't have to worry about an inky plague scouring the globe. Mostly just random, isolated murders. Yay! Next, how might SCP-1913-2, aka Telly, change the world? Well, for one, she would make the world hella scary. Once word got out that a freaky skeleton was going around slashing people, going out at night would be a lot less ideal. Sure, the odds of you being the one Telly ripped to threads would be low, especially if you avoid lab coats and armor. But who knows what you'd be ordered to do? Imagine how terrifying it would be if an evil person got their hands on her. To have the ability to maim and torture a person knowing that they will never die would be pretty ideal for a sadist like H.H. Holmes. But it wouldn't all be bad. Given how cooperative Telly seems to be, it's possible that, in the right hands, she could do a lot of good. If a person was properly anesthetized, this ability to never cause death could actually be a great way to ensure that someone never died on the operating table. Of course, it's unclear whether Telly would be super open to this, especially since her friends are significantly more bloodthirsty, but it's a possibility. Finally, how might the existence of SCP-1913-3, also known as Freddy, affect us? Well, similar to Telly, much of Freddy's damage would be psychological. As ferocious as Freddy is, there's only so much he can do, especially if he's concerned about getting caught. However, the idea of being burned to death by a phantom dog is enough to keep a good many people inside whenever possible. All this sounds pretty grim, but is there anything we could do to stop them? Well, there is, but it's not easy. Unfortunately, due to their regenerative abilities, we can't really kill these things for good. They don't seem to be invincible, but they tend to turn back up wherever they died after a bit of time. However, due to their aversion to sulfur, it would be possible to capture them, either by surrounding them with sulfur while they're alive, or killing them, then encasing them in sulfur. This would allow them to be safely transported back to the SCP Foundation, and the world could breathe easy once again. Well, except for, climate change and nuclear war and all that stuff. But hey, we wouldn't be murdered by a porcelain cat, so that's a win. And now we return to our question, what if SCP-1913 was real? Well, they'd certainly make the world a scarier place once word got out of their shenanigans, but thankfully they probably wouldn't do too much damage. Given their weakness to sulfur, there actually is a pretty good chance they'd be captured again if they escaped. The Foundation would just have to watch out for news of wriggling limbs, track the things down, surround them in sulfur, and boom daddy, they're back in captivity. They were caught once, they can be caught again. Thank you for watching Life's Biggest Questions. I hope this was interesting and informative, and maybe inspired you to look into it further on your own. If you like this video, please thumbs up and subscribe and all that jazz down below. While you're down there, let me know what other videos you'd like to see. Now before I go, here are some of my favorite comments from my last video. Naya, or Nia Senpai, said, "I'm curious, did you guys do What If Doctor Who Was Real?" Actually, no, but I would absolutely love to. I'm working on getting some Doctor Who videos up here, but I don't have the final say in what gets done. Fingers crossed. Obsidian Ingot said, "Pooh." That's it from me, guys, so until next time, I'm Ron Mackenzie LaFergie with Life's Biggest Questions, wishing you the best of luck on your quest for answers.